Hello, and welcome to my video about identifying triads. Today we're going to focus on how to identify the root of a triad and how to label the quality of that triad. So first, let's start with what is a triad? A triad is a chord that is built from 3 different pitches. Every triad includes a root, third, and a fifth. You can see triads all over the place in music. Not all music, but a lot of music has triads. Another thing about triads is they have different qualities. So before we take a look at the qualities of triads, let's review the interval qualities. So to find a major third, it will be built out of 4 half steps. A minor third is built out of 3 half steps, and a perfect fifth is built out of 7 half steps, or a major third plus a minor third on top. So there are lots of qualities of intervals. These are the ones that you need to know today for triads. But if you would like a review of all the interval qualities, I will include in the subject of the video at the bottom some links where you can review all of your interval qualities. Eventually, you'll know these so well that you don't need to walk through this process of counting half steps, but for now, this is a more sure way to make sure you get the correct interval quality. So now let's talk about the qualities of triads. So remember, a triad is built of 3 pitches. We have a root, a third, and a fifth. One of the qualities of triads is major. To build a major triad, it is built out of a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. So we're talking on bottom from root to third, and on top is the third to the fifth, okay? A minor triad is built out of a minor third on the bottom and a major third on top. A diminished triad is a minor triad that is just a little bit smaller. So diminished means smaller, essentially. So a diminished triad is a minor third plus a minor third on top. The last kind of triad that we're going to talk about today is augmented. So augment means to make a little bit larger. And in this case, augmented is a little bit larger than major. So an augmented triad is built out of a major third and a major third. So the first type of triads we're going to look at today are all going to be in root position. So root position means that the root of the chord is the lowest note, okay? Not typically. When you're looking at a triad like this in root position, the root is on the bottom, and then the third and the fifth are stacked on top of that. So another way to talk about this is calling this stacked thirds. So today we're going to start by looking at stacked thirds of triads. So to identify a triad in root position, remember we're looking for the name of the root and the quality of the triad. The first thing you need to do is look for a chord and then see if it has 3 different pitches. If it doesn't have 3 different pitches, then it's not a triad because it has to have 3 different ones. Next, we're going to name the notes by their letter names. After that, we apply a key signature or accidentals or both. The next step is identify the quality of the intervals. So right now we're talking stacked thirds, so we're going to look at the bottom third and the top third. There are a lot of different ways to notate or label triads. For the sake of consistency, for this video, we're going to label major triads with the capital root. So if it's an A triad, it would be capital A, or if it's a B triad, capital B. So a capital root with a capital M. That stands for a major triad. Minor is going to be lowercase root with a lowercase m. Augmented will be a capital root with AUG, and diminished will be lowercase root followed by DIM. Okay, so let's identify some triads. So here I've composed a bunch of different triads. Let's walk through the first one together. So here we are, our first triad. We can see that this triad is in root position because it's composed of stacked thirds. So our first step is, now that we know it's a triad in root position, we're going to name the notes of this triad. So we have C, E, and G. So far, we know the root of this triad is going to be some type of C. And by some type, I mean capital or lowercase. So let's just put a capital C for now. We can change it later if we need to. The next step, identify the quality of intervals. So we're going to look at the bottom third and figure out if this is a major third or a minor third. So to do that, we're going to count half steps from C to E. Let's do this together. So we have C, which we do not count, and then C sharp, that's our first one, D, D sharp, and then E. So remember, we don't count the root. We don't count the first note of the interval, the lower note of the interval. We count starting after that. So we have 4 half steps from C to E, which makes this a major third. So now we know half the information we need. This half of the information tells us that we are either going to be looking at a major triad or an augmented triad, because both of those triads have a major third between in the first interval. So now let's look at the third on top. So this will go from the third of the chord to the fifth of the chord. So we're going from E to G. Let's count those half steps. So E, F is 1, F sharp, G. So that gives us 3 half steps, which means that is a minor third. So we're looking at a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. That will make this triad a C major triad. Okay, let's do another one together. Let's see. How about this one down here? Okay, so first we can see these are stacked thirds, so we know this is in root position. So our lowest note is E, followed by G, followed by B. Next, let's apply our key signature. So our key signature has 2 flats. If we apply that, we now have an E flat, a G, and over here, since we have a natural sign, a B natural. So far we know we're going to start with an E flat. Because there's not a way to notate flats on a keyboard, just a lowercase b will suffice. Okay, let's figure out the quality of intervals. Why don't you go ahead and do it on your own? Figure out the quality of the bottom interval, the bottom third, and then the top third. So do that on your own. Pause this video, take as long as you need, and then when you're done, come back and check and see if you got the correct answer. Welcome back. Hopefully you found, while you were going through your process, a major third on the bottom of this triad and a major third on top. And because a major third plus a major third is bigger than a major triad, this is now an augmented triad. So one tip, I guess, for practicing triads and identifying their quality. At first, it's going to feel like kind of a long process, hopefully not tedious, but it will take a little bit of work at first. This is because it takes a while to be familiar with the quality of intervals as well as the quality of the triad on its own. Something that I find helpful is to imagine in my head myself playing this on my instrument. So I'm a pianist. So to help me know the quality of this triad, I would in my head imagine playing it, which kind of helps me connect the distance with the feeling of the distance of the intervals. So that's one thing you can do. If you have an instrument near you, you can go ahead and use that now to figure out these triads. If you don't, pull out a piece of paper and identify as many triads as you can. You can go ahead and pause this video and work through these triads at a pace that is comfortable for you. After you've worked on those for a while, you can come back and I will have the answers for you. Okay, hopefully that went well for you. Here are all the answers to the triads on the previous page. Like I mentioned, there's no flat on the keyboard, so using a lowercase b will work, but you do have a number sign which will work just as well for a sharp sign. So go ahead, check your answers. Once you've done that, we will move on to identifying some more triads. Okay, so here is a piece of music. This piece of music is full of triads. It's one that hopefully you are all familiar with, but I will tell you, if you are playing this on an instrument, it's going to sound a little bit different starting in measure 9, because I reharmonized this from the way we typically hear it, just so you could get some practice looking for more chords, okay? So in the first 16 bars, so until this double bar line right here, all of these triads are in root position, which means you can just identify the root by looking at the lowest note. Not yet, but in a minute, I do want you to pause and figure these out. But for now, let's look at these last 8 bars. So these last 8 bars are just the last phrase of Jingle Bells. And what I did is I changed these triads. So before, we were looking at triads of stacked thirds. So a third on top of a third. We are no longer looking at stacked thirds. We have a fourth and then a third. And then over here, we have a third and then a fourth. And then here, we have more stacked thirds. So these triads that are not stacked thirds are what we call inverted triads. So you don't need to know too much about inversions today, but you do need to know that this lowest note is not our root, and we know that because this is not a stacked third triad. So in order to figure out the root of this triad, we need to rearrange the notes so that they are in stacked thirds. One way to do this is you can just move these notes around until, move this one lower or move this one higher, and, you can do all that. But the easier way, I think, is to name the notes and then do the same thing where you rearrange the notes, but all we're looking for is one skipped note in between. So for example, from A to D, we have A and then B, C in between that. So we know that's not a third. So if we move this A and put it on top, above this F sharp, we now have D, E, F. Okay, so we skipped an E, and then G, A. So we only skipped one note. That will put this triad into root position. Right now, this might seem a little bit confusing, but after having some experience with inverted triads, it's pretty easy to recognize the pattern that goes on and how you need to rearrange the notes in order to put them into root position. The reason this is kind of easy is because there's only 3 ways to organize a triad. There will either be a fourth on the bottom, a fourth on top, or no fourths at all. So now that we've talked a little bit about inverted triads, I want you to pause this video and figure out all the chords on this page. And here we are. Here are all of your answers to the previous page. I want you to check all of the chords, but pay special attention to the inverted triads on the last line to see if you were able to get those correct. And if not, see what you can do to change the way you did it to find the correct answer. And now we have a bonus round. Again, Jingle Bells, but this time I've removed the melody and only written chords. For this example, if you choose to do it, there will be occasionally more than one note being repeated. So remember, a triad is 3 different pitches. So if you do have a repeated pitch, you can ignore that and then follow the steps in this same process that we did before. As a reminder, in the section below this video, there will be some resources about triads and intervals that you can check out when you have some time.